Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we are going to discuss the major astrology of August 2026 as the 8th month of the calendar year begins and we move into eclipse season. Now, August is going to be a month that heavily focuses on the Leo and Aquarius energies in your chart. So the houses where you have Leo energy and Aquarius energy. Also, it's going to highlight the Pisces energies and houses in your chart, as well as the Virgo planets and houses in your chart. So these are two important astrological axes to look at in your chart because this is where you're going to be experiencing the changes and themes of August. Now, that's because the sun is in Leo, as it is every time this year. The sun moves through Leo until August 22nd, where it then enters Virgo. So this is typical for this time of year to have the sun, which is growth, consciousness, light, and your sense of self moving through particular houses in your chart. The sun shines a spotlight on these houses and brings your attention to your needs in the Leo and Virgo houses in your chart. However, this year is different because we also have the nodes of fate now moving into Leo and Aquarius with the North Node in Aquarius. And then we're also going to have, again, the sun moving into Virgo as of August 22nd, but also an eclipse in the Pisces areas of your chart, specifically 5 degrees of Pisces, which I will talk about briefly in this podcast. So I wanted to start with helping you identify where the strong August energies are showing up for us and how it's really going to bring about matters in all 4 of these houses in your chart. We're going to get into more of the specific in today's show, but it's always fascinating when the universe has some very clear messages in the energy and in the themes for us to focus on. So as August begins, we of course have the sun in Leo, also Jupiter in Leo, and the nodes of fate now with the south node in Leo and the north node in Aquarius. Plus, we are starting the month of August after that very big and dynamic Aquarius full moon. So I already sound like a broken record, right? Talking about the Leo Aquarius themes and where our attention is being drawn to elevate our own consciousness away from any stuck patterns, attachments, or self-imposed identities that we've actually outgrown. There's complexity here in these energies. There's a lot going on that could feel like you're in an internal power struggle with yourself, perhaps with another person or another energy field even, but there is a very powerful oppositional theme that is showing up as we move into August. The sun, Jupiter, and south node in Leo is bringing your attention to the creative gifts, life force, strength, and personal leadership that you are embodying now. Jupiter amplifies what is. Jupiter highlights what currently exists and makes it bigger so that you can see it and feel it. Now, of course, this can help expand your confidence, your strength, your determination. It can bring up what you want to create now in your life that feels beautifully aligned with who you are. But the south node is moving through Leo. It starts at 29 degrees. So it's at the end of the sign. And the south node is also bringing your consciousness to the awareness that there's parts of yourself that you're meant to recreate, release, and ultimately renew that will be more evident in a few months when Jupiter is conjunct the south node in Leo, which happens in November. So basically, this Leo season is asking you to check in with what really aligns with your heart, your joy, your inner child, and your light body. This is a Leo season to really listen to what your heart and your full energy is drawn to while also staying consciously aware that that's probably going to look different in a few months. So the realistic advice here is to not become overly attached to what you are beginning or creating now, because it is going to change as Jupiter aligns with the South Node in Leo in November, and you're going to want to shift and evolve it in some capacity. The South Node in Leo brings our attention to what is no longer fulfilling or satisfying, what needs to be closed out and cleared away so that new creations can emerge that are stronger and more aligned with the new dreams, visions, and unexpected developments that the North Node in Aquarius is going to be bringing our attention to. And so August could be a month where you start with a strong life force or creative intention around something. And then you may be surprised at how that energy deflates or starts to become less central to what you really want and where you're going. And this can be tricky when we have a lot of planets and points in the fixed signs. The fixed signs include Leo and Aquarius. They also include Taurus and Scorpio. And so this could be a time period to check in on, what am I really relying on? What am I banking on here? What do I really need that I'm attaching my intentions and expectations to? Because that Jupiter in Leo can have very big intentions, very big assumptions and expectations. But the energy signature with the South Node in Leo means that there will be endings here. And so the recommendation is to remain attached to the best possible developments and outcomes that you can't see now, that you can feel strong in your core, trusting in your own creative spirit, in your intuition, and in your ability to keep creating a life that is meaningful to you, even if it changes or ends before you expect it to. It's a really tricky message to give because the Jupiter and Sun in Leo brings about hope and optimism. It's very uplifting and positive energy. But the South Node in Leo is going to remind you that you have to choose what truly resonates with you at a core level and what is best for your long-term growth, which you might not see in the moment. So there's a lot going on again in these Leo energies in your chart. Now we also have in August, Chiron stationing retrograde at 0 degrees of Taurus, also a fixed sign, on August 3rd. And this Chiron stationing retrograde at 0 degrees of Taurus has been sampling what needs to be tended to in the Taurus areas of our life, because that 0 degree point is a starting place of the energy that has been an initiation of sorts. Now, Chiron entered Taurus back on June 19th and stays in Taurus until September 17th. So Chiron is only here for 3 months in Taurus in 2026. But hey, let's take a look at what has happened over this short span of time already. There have been food recalls. Taurus rules food, agriculture, what is grown from the earth, what comes from natural sources. So we've had a significant lettuce recall here in the US with iceberg lettuce that actually I believe comes from central Mexico. But it's been one of the biggest recalls in recent years since that lettuce was distributed across many states and also sold under different names for different stores, including many grocery stores like Whole Foods, Kroger, Publix, etc. There also have been recalls around eggs. Almost 2 million eggs were recalled due to potential salmonella contamination. And to be fair, it's common for food recalls to be occurring, but typically it's in smaller batches. These have been more extreme and more widely distributed products that are being recalled, which is a Chiron and Taurus theme around the source of our food, our nutrition, how it's handled, how it's cared for, and of course, ensuring that it's consumable. Chiron in Taurus has also brought to the forefront the theme of land use, and we've all been hearing about the AI data centers that are being planned and developed across the world, across many countries in the world. It's also brought up land ownership and what is going on with farmers. You can relate this to not only the land they own, but their business and how their business is being impacted now by the deficit in fertilizer. Fertilizer being a part of what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz blockades, which also has brought our attention to oil, and most notably the rise of fuel costs, as well as needing to tap into oil reserves in order to meet demand. And so just right there, if you were to look at food and energy resources that have changed since Chiron has been in Taurus, it has been significant. Now, as Chiron stations retrograde on August 3rd, the energy here is looking for the new solutions, different approaches, and alternative pathways that can be used, because Chiron is always about what is outside of the box and different, what is created sometimes out of desperation or out of demand that wouldn't have been a typical solution. So this Chiron retrograde will be a time to assess, what do I really need? What is really vital and significant? And there may be more and more that is cut out and removed as Chiron stations retrograde in Taurus at 0 degrees. This will certainly continue to impact people's spending habits and disposable income. There will be more that is determined no longer essential, or something that maybe you have to cut back on for the short term for long-term gain. Of course, there is the ongoing rise in food and grocery costs, not to mention gas, air conditioning, energy, and other living costs. So this is a time for us to be more creative in determining how our needs can be met as they are challenged. And there is no quick and easy formula for that, but the astrology suggests that this is just the beginning of what Chiron in Taurus is guiding us to heal by looking at where there is lack, loss, and outdated systems, outdated and no longer useful systems that need to be upgraded and improved. When Chiron first moves into a sign, it gives a jolt of what's broken. And this can show up as crisis points. That is a theme with Chiron, is that it brings about a crisis that needs to be solved and healed. And so the more proactive we can be in seeing what's broken, the more we're going to reach new solutions and new ways of tending to the core issues. So this Chiron stationing retrograde in Taurus is going to be a key theme throughout August. So then that brings us to the Leo Solar Eclipse on August 12th. This will be happening at 20 degrees of Leo in your chart. A solar eclipse is a new moon. It's a supercharged new beginning occurring at 20 degrees of Leo. And it can help to reference previous times that we've had a Leo solar eclipse around this degree point. Now, as I was doing my research, going back into looking at this particular solar eclipse point, the closest degree points we've had were back in 2018 when we had a solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Leo. So you could reference that. That's at least part of recent memory. Again, that would have been August 11th, 2018 at 19 degrees of Leo. And then going back even further, we had another Leo solar eclipse at 18 degrees of Leo back on August 10th, 1980. So 2018 and then 1980 were the years that this area of your chart was amplified by a Leo solar eclipse. And then we can go back even further for some of you to 1961, when there was also a solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Leo. So if you're tracking, it would have been 2018, 1980, 1961 is when this would have been a very strong beginning point in your life, since a solar eclipse brings about fast-moving dynamic changes that are meant to catapult you forward and move you out of a previous reality, previous experiences into a new one. And at 20 degrees of Leo, this being the beginning of the third decan of Leo, there is an element of strength, mastery, and personal leadership here around declaring what you want to create that I feel is activating our light bodies, meaning what you have cleared out and removed, the energetic residue that has been dissolved, that has been released. There's now a supercharged new beginning of what you want, and this is the energy of declaring it to the universe, making it very obvious that this is a new beginning point related to both your heart chakra and your solar plexus chakra, that this is a time of starting fresh with renewed empowerment that you've earned, You had to master this. You've had to move through important areas of yourself in order to really get clear on what you desire and want now, based on what you no longer want and what you're no longer attracted to. Now, that's an important word, attraction, because Leo is the energy of what you desire, what you're attracted to. It can even be like the unconscious attractions you have to certain people, to a certain type, to a certain romantic energy. But this is now becoming more conscious in yourself of what you really desire and want and why. So I feel like this lights up the heart chakra. This is going to be a beautiful beginning point for many of you in terms of romantic connections, heart-based energies, love that is magnetized in and co-created together, especially if it's coming from a very pure, honest place in yourself based on what you've learned. And that's how I'm reading this energy at 20 degrees of Leo as a solar eclipse, is that these are also attractions and energies that are going to be magnetized together quickly because of how much has been cleared out and removed. And you could find that you have a change of heart around something in yourself or in your life. That's also part of a solar eclipse, is that there's something that's being brought to the surface. It's a new beginning point that you didn't see or feel before. And this could be the shift that changes what you desire and magnetize in because it's brand new to you. It could even be brand new in this lifetime, or it could be brand new since the last Leo solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Leo back in August 2018. So you could look at this in terms of what you love, what you desire, what's in your heart now that you have been strengthening since 2018. This could certainly be embodying more self-love, more personal creative power. This also relates directly to children, the children you have, the children you desire. This could relate to healing more of your inner child and feeling that it has healed. Because again, with an eclipse, beginning at the third decan of a sign, we move into the archetypal understanding of the adult, where the first decan of a sign is the child, the second decan of every sign is the teenager, and the third decan is the adult. So there's greater maturity and responsibility here around matters of the heart, romance, attraction, inner child, even how you compete and take risks, which is also part of that Leo bold energy, where Leo wants to go for it, wants to have fun, wants to see what can come about, and often is driven by a need to demonstrate one's strength, abilities, and skills. So you could be ready for a new type of risk taking, to put yourself out there in a new way, to do something more bold than you've ever done before or you haven't felt ready for. So I feel that overall this could be encouraging. Of course, it depends on your natal chart and where 20 degrees of Leo is in your chart, but there could be things that inspire you to take a risk and move into a new chapter in your life that maybe you've been waiting for. So of course, we'll keep talking about this as we get closer to that August 12th Leo solar eclipse. In this episode, I just go through the highlights of the month. And then in each Wednesday podcast episode, we go through more of the particulars and specifics that are going on in the week. So I hope this gives you an understanding of what to expect in August, as well as how to intentionally work with the energies as they arrive. So in August, we have 4 outer planets that are retrograde: Chiron, Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, and Pluto in Aquarius. Each of the outer planets, it's in its typical retrograde cycle that happens every year. But thankfully, we will have all 3 personal planets direct this month. Mercury moves out of his retrograde shadow on August 7th and will move into Leo on August 9th. Venus will move into one of her home signs of Libra on August 6th, and Mars will leave Gemini and enter into Cancer on August 11th. So the first 2 weeks of the month, we see each of the personal planets changing signs. And the most significant here is that both Mercury and Venus move into fire and air signs, and they are going to be personally rejuvenated and electrified as they encounter aspects to all 3 outer planets. Mercury in Leo will be highly active as it squares Chiron in Taurus, opposes Pluto in Aquarius, trines Neptune in Aries, and sextiles Uranus in Gemini. Don't worry, we'll talk about this more on the Wednesday podcast. But just so you know, this means that August is going to be much more fast moving with communications, plans, interactions, developments. Maybe what you felt was stalled out or wasn't moving ahead in June or July finally has new life and is renewed with inspiration, motivation, and a whole new direction forward, because this Mercury in Leo is ready to go and make moves. Mercury will be moving fast, however, in Leo, as it does after each retrograde journey, and will only be in Leo from August 9th until August 25th, then moves into Virgo. So in August, Mercury moves through the rest of Cancer, all of Leo, and the first 10 degrees of Virgo. Then this Venus moves into Libra, and as she moves into one of her home signs, there is now support for what Venus wants to create based on exchange, partnership, interactions, healthy communications, and shared values. This Venus is also going to be beautifully supported here in August, as she is going to have sparks of inspiration and support from Jupiter in Leo, Uranus in Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius. Then she has an opposition to Neptune in Aries. Again, we'll talk about this more when she's moving through these exact aspects in the month ahead. But as a heads up, this can be a much more supportive month for relationships, collaborations, partnerships, people you want to interact with and create something equitable and harmonious. I feel that this Venus is going to come to life, especially because she's going to have a air grand trine with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto retrograde in Aquarius when she gets to 4 and 5 degrees of Libra. And so this is where the ideas and plans move ahead that she's been working on and working through. This Venus had a bit of a tough ride through June and July. That's because as she moved through Virgo, she moved across the South Node. She had a square to Uranus in Gemini. She had significant endings and changes that were unexpected and probably hit her at a more personal level. She was doing the work, the healing. She probably was also very shut down because she also has had an ongoing square to Mars in Gemini. That square has lasted throughout July and also moves into August. Venus in Virgo has been in a very contentious, unhappy, unresolved place. But when she moves into Libra, she finally has support. And there is new levels of resolution, harmony, and balance that she's ready to discuss and understand. So Venus enters Libra on August 6th, and I feel this is a positive shift in the Venusian energies and it brings about some significant developments as she moves through the early degrees of Libra and interacts favorably with the outer planets. So we'll discuss that as we move into August, but I did want to give you a heads up on that because this Venus in Virgo transit has been more significant in the Virgo areas of your life in your chart. And whatever she's had to work on or work through has a balancing change here in August. So as we move into the second half of the month, we will have the Sun enter Virgo on August 22nd at 10:19 p.m. Eastern Time, followed a few days later by Mercury entering Virgo, which is a sign that Mercury does very well in. And then it takes us to the Pisces Lunar Eclipse on August 28th. It is occurring at 4 degrees 54 minutes of Pisces in your chart, so we round up to 5 degrees of Pisces is where this lunar eclipse is bringing about endings, completions, and karmic release that you've been holding and carrying. Now, a lunar eclipse is a full moon, but it is amplified. It is more emotional. It is bigger in how it is felt and experienced, especially in Pisces, a water sign, the 12th and final sign of the astrological wheel, and a water sign that is about release, endings, completions, and dissolving what was. So in your chart, you would locate where you have 5 degrees of Pisces, as this signifies that big life changes are closing out here. There are endings that are apparent. And to help with how you may experience this, you could reference back to the previous years when we've had a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Pisces. The last time this occurred was 2007 at 5 degrees of Pisces. And then before that was 1988 at 4 degrees of Pisces. And before that was 1980 at 3 degrees of Pisces. So you could look back on these years at what changed for you in the Pisces areas of your chart at 5 degrees of Pisces by house placement, whatever house you have 5 degrees of Pisces. You could reference back to August 2007, August 1988, and August 1980. We could go back even further to August 1961 when we had a lunar eclipse at 3 degrees of Pisces. 5 degrees of Pisces is in the first decan of the sign where there is innocence, openness, trust, idealism, rose-tinted glasses. If you have been idealizing something or someone, if you have thought something was better than it realistically is, if you have been disconnected from a practical reality, this is a Pisces lunar eclipse that's going to reveal that, especially because not only is that lunar eclipse in Pisces, it's opposing both the Sun and Mercury in Virgo, which are very analytical, grounded, realistic, intelligent. And then they're all squaring Uranus and Gemini at 5 degrees, which is the surprising stories, revelations, information, the unexpected announcements, the jolts of change that you didn't see coming, but something you had to know, something you weren't aware of that needed to be brought to your attention is what this Pisces lunar eclipse is going to bring up. And I realize that can start to stir the nervous system or anxiety or bring up, what do I not know? What's going to surprise me? What's going to come about that I didn't plan for or I didn't see was unfolding? Well, whatever it may be, chances are you have been aware of it at some level of consciousness. And the Pisces energy can skip over things, can say, oh, let's not look at that. Or, oh, I don't want to see my shadow. Or, oh, I don't want to be aware of that. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't look nice. I don't want that in my reality. But this is a Pisces lunar eclipse. It's going to bring you into a reality that's important for you to see and understand, that supports your grounding in this world and in this life, and is going to propel you into making life changes that are needed. So this is a very dynamic Pisces lunar eclipse. Yes, we'll be talking about it as we move through August. I will have a chart for you on YouTube going through the specifics of this Pisces lunar eclipse. But essentially, there are big changes that are going to be occurring here because your soul, your higher consciousness, and your higher self are bringing something in front of you that you have to know and you have to see. And so this is where some people are going to be dancing with their own hidden shadow. They're going to have to deal with things that they swept under the rug. They are going to have to look at parts of themselves that they thought they already healed or already worked through or already knew about. This is where revelations are occurring that change patterns, that change your own unconscious or subconscious self, that break you out of any habits of escapism, numbing, idealism, or victim consciousness. It's going to propel us out of those lower Piscean energies and require us to see something for what it is, not what we want it to be. And it could feel like a double whammy of some kind, because not only is this that lunar eclipse energy, which is about endings and closing out chapters, but it's squaring Uranus and Gemini, which is going to shift our reality quickly and challenge what we thought we knew and understood. There's a lot here in this Pisces lunar eclipse. So as I said, we will be going through this even more as we move to the end of August. But then the month closes with a really lovely aspect. So let's move ahead to that and discuss how Jupiter in Leo is going to be trining Saturn retrograde in Aries at 13 degrees from August 28th until September 3rd. This is beautiful energy here as these two outer planets align in a trine, both in fire signs, bringing up support, stability, inspiration, commitment, excitement, workable solutions, self-discipline, clear pathways, and the resources you need to make something tangible and real. Yes, this is an aspect that is that good, occurring at 13 degrees of Leo and 13 degrees of Aries in your chart. So you would identify where you have 13 degrees of Leo. That's where Jupiter will be revving up the creative process, bringing to life more of what you desire, want, and are ready to take action on. Trining this Saturn in Aries, which is retrograde. So it's something you've already been planning. You are reviewing, you're looking at new options, new solutions. Maybe there's something you've been investing in and you're seeing a new approach or something finally clicking that is occurring for you the end of August that wasn't there before. As this trine unfolds, both planets are supported. This Jupiter in Leo now has the stability and practical application to follow, whereas the Saturn in Aries is going to feel a new life force and joy to propel it forward. So I'm really excited about this aspect because it's going to give strength and renewed fire to what you've been working on this year. So in your chart, you want to connect the houses where you have 13 degrees of Leo and 13 degrees of Aries. Those two houses are in a supportive development process that can take something forward. And that will be different for everyone, but this is going to be encouraging energy that could be really needed after that Pisces lunar eclipse. So we move into August with these eclipse energies approaching that will be changing our lives, changing our reality, of course, moving us ahead into new timelines, new potentials, new energy frequencies that open up with each eclipse. And this could be a month where you see even more clearly how much you've changed, how much you've grown and healed, how different you are, even in August from when you were in January or maybe last year. There could be something coming through here that strengthens more of who you are that you feel internally and at a core level of your being that allows you to navigate eclipse season with deeper trust in yourself, especially if you've been working very intentionally with your intuition and your higher self. You could be feeling greater trust in yourself, that you will always know what to choose or what to do, that even when life gives you these curveballs and unexpected developments, you can always trust yourself and trust your higher self to navigate through the shifts and changes. This could be a month where you're actually feeling renewal and stronger in your light body, that you're holding more light. You're truly living from that place within yourself that is cleared out and has purged away old versions of self and old fears. You might sense more of what you have transformed, how you've entered into more of your own, whatever that means for you, that you could feel stronger in your soul skin, and that you've done a lot of personal healing work and inner child healing to live from a more pure, loving place within yourself. And it's from that internal place that your creative spirit comes alive and you feel more confident in shining your gifts and showing up in the world with your intelligence, your ideas, your wisdom, your joy and your happiness. Because even though there's a lot going on the planet and there's a lot that is complex, challenging, and hard, you might feel that you're embodying even more of your lightness and your playful spirit that keeps you elevating above it all to see the bigger picture of this life. And so as we move through August, I hope you feel that beautiful inner peace and calm around how far you've come on your journey, how much you've learned along the way, how much you have obtained and integrated. And I certainly hope that August brings you even more of what your heart desires, what you truly need, and what you're here to express and experience at this phase in your life. For those of you who are in my 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program, just a reminder to log into your account and look at these eclipse energies for yourself as I go through them more specifically for you so that you can reference them in your chart. If you would like to join the 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program, you are welcome to do so. It is all the major astrology of this year, including the eclipses, plus you'll find even more discussing Jupiter in Leo, Saturn in Aries, Chiron in Taurus, and also Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius, where she stays until September. Then we look at Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn. So there is a lot here in this online program that I offer for you so that you can be more of your own astrologer and understand your chart, understand how these transits are showing up for you and what is coming up in all these houses and areas of your chart. And if you would like to join the 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program, you can use coupon code COSMIC2026 to save $22 off the price. As always, thank you so much for joining me for today's show. I'll be back on Wednesday as we discuss even more of what's going on this week. Wishing you a beautiful journey through the month of August, and of course, look forward to discussing it with you as we move through each week. Have a beautiful day ahead and take good care.